everybody, it's Tracy from Downward Dog Rising, and I'm here at my place of work at a Pilates studio, and I just thought I'd go over some deep diaphragmatic breathing with you, because sometimes there's questions about why is breathing so different for different modalities. So the breathing for different modalities, look at it as what are you looking to accomplish, or what are you looking to do? In Pilates, we want to stabilize our spine and we want to activate our deep core and really get a good muscle contraction for support of our spinal column. And then what we do is we activate deeper layers instead of just the superficial top layer where you see the muscle tone, the rectus abdominis. We're gonna go lower than that, transversus abdominis. Think of the two hip bones horizontally narrowing together. They pull across like a belt, coming all the way across, a little bit here around the edges, around the back. Then think about the pelvic floor, which is a very deep muscle. It supports your organs. So our psoas even goes through the pelvic floor, and it has origin and insertion points that go back into our back vertebra. So having a tight psoas can actually wreak havoc on your spine. But we're not doing anything with the psoas today, but just letting you know, when you do deep diaphragmatic breathing, you're allowing your body to get the maximal effect of doing Pilates, because it's not just about going through motion just to move and say, okay, I'm doing hundreds, I'm pumping my arms, I'm inhaling through nose, exhaling through mouth. Like, we have to go deeper than that. So when you think of accessing pelvic floor, think of underneath you, like when you're sitting, think of zipping up from pubic bone to navel, like a drawing in and a lengthening all the way up. It's a vertical feeling. So we think of that vertical lift as we're pulling our abdominal wall three-dimensionally to the anterior. If we cut you open, we would look at the anterior of your spinal column. So we pull into the anterior of the spinal column and we zip up. So that's two areas I just talked about. Transversus abdominis, horizontal. So all of these are deeper than the top layer, the rectus abdominis, the six-pack. And then we're gonna go deeper. We're not gonna go deeper than the pelvic floor, but I mentioned the pelvic floor. Next are your diagonals, our diagonal slings, and they go across the back of our body, they pull across the front. We have connections that help us go deeper by anchoring our shoulder blades, by floating those blades down the back to keep the open spaciousness here. And then think of the internal, the external obliques, like a V coming across like this. So a V. And then we're gonna utilize our breath right now. So I want you to inhale through your nose. Just place one hand on your chest, one hand on the side of your rib cage. Inhale through your nose, and then exhale through your mouth. Notice how the chest rises and falls and the ribs go outwards. When we get stressed, we just breathe up here. It could be short and shallow, like you hold your breath and you're not getting like full oxygenation into the lower lobes of your lungs. So it makes us tense. We use accessory muscles. We tense our neck, we tense our shoulders, we tense our upper traps, our scalene, sternocleidomastoid, sides of neck. Like everything up here tightens up. We don't want that. We want to sink into our pelvis. And then what I want you to do is think of your hands coming around to the sides of your ribs. Now we're gonna fully inflate three-dimensionally to all sides of our rib cage. So you're gonna inhale. Feel that lateral rib cage expansion. We do wanna soften our breastbone. Breastbone melts down. Soften like you're letting out a deep sigh. Ribs expand and then melt. Let out a deep sigh so you feel that hand move down, it releases. Sternum just melts into chest. If you're lying on your back, that'll get your thoracic spine, your middle back to lengthen into the mat. So both hands around sides of rib cage. Inhale, expansion. Soften through your breastbone. Now wrap. Funnel the ribs down and wring out the wet towel to get your intercostals, the muscles between your ribs, to draw those ribs, funnel them down, around, and together. So we avoid flaring the ribs out to the front and arch the mid-back off the mat. And then you just wrap, funnel down. Now think of zipping from pubic bone to navel. You're sitting on your sits bones, sitting on your tailbone, perineum is underneath you. And then you exhale. Wrap. Sits bones firm into mat, ribs wrap, chest falls. And then you're softening across shoulders. And then you let the chest fall. Exhale, those ribs wrap. So in Pilates, this helps you get a really deep core contraction. We also have our multifidus muscle in our back. When we prepare ourselves, like we don't want to brace and be rigid. We want to flow. We want to move with our breath. So if I were to just lie down on the mat, let me go to the Cadillac table. It's behind me. I'm just going to leave the camera as is. I'm just going to lie down on my back. I might move you in. Maybe I should. All right. I don't want to screw this up. Okay. Moving in a little closer. Maybe a little closer. And then I'll just like breathe for a second. Breathing in through the nose and then exhaling through the mouth. So if I lie down on my back, if I hold tension and I flare my ribs, I'll do it on purpose. My ribs flare, the center part of my back between the shoulder blades rises off the mat, and I really can't effectively stabilize my spine. So just by using the breath, you inhale, soften your sternum, your breastbone down, exhale. So the area between your shoulder blades touches down on the mat. Next thing, sometimes we do pop our ribs, and it has to do with your arms plugging into the back of your shoulder girdle. I'll pop my ribs, my middle back lifts up. That's not what we're shooting for. We want to find the point where we can anchor the blades, they float down sides to back, and then we pull and integrate the front of those ribs together, and then that way our entire spine is supported. We do have natural curves in our spine, so maybe you have a space between your low back and the mat, but this is going to help you so you don't exaggerate and overload the spine in a place where it has too much compressive force from being out of alignment. So head lengthens away from tailbone. And now, if I were to just focus on getting my ribs to connect, I'm not worried about long legs, long lever for hundreds. I'm just going to do basic hundreds for beginners. You could have your knees bent, your feet are flat on the mat. You're trying to create that elongation from top of head to middle spine. It's like head lengthens away from tailbone, even more so from breastbone to top of head. It's one arc, one whole unit. Arcs up, that opens your chest wide, shoulders out of ears. Now scoop in from pubic bone to navel, that elongation effect. Draw the hip points together, that's the horizontal effect. Now we wrap both sides of those ribs together as they funnel down, and you just want to pump the arms firm from the blade connection in your back. Inhale for 5, and then you're going to exhale. Chest is open, collarbones wide. And exhale. Making sure you don't pooch your abdominal wall outward. It scoops in under the front of those ribs. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Feel the back of those ribs wide on the mat underneath you. Breathe in. Exhale. Head away from tailbone. Breathe in. Neck is long. Shoulders out of ears. And 4 more sets. Breathe in. Exhale. Chest opens wide. Breathe in. Exhale. 2 more sets. You're going to feel your body warming up. Breathing in. Exhale. 1 more set. Just arms move. Breathe in. And exhale. And gently lower down. Draw those knees in. Let your spine release into mat. Shoulders down and back. Maybe rock side to side. Reach under those knees. And then we're just going to do a little articulating bridge. If your spine doesn't like to go into flexion, you have herniated discs, or you have fused spine, you're not going to go into articulating it. So you would just do a straight lift, weight across shoulder blade shelf, the ribs stay integrated together in front, and you would lower straight down. So here's neutral bridge, tailbone long, chest is open, shoulders out of ears, straight back to mat. 3 more. So this is going to help strengthen your core, your back, straight back to mat. Activate gluteals first so those hamstrings avoid cramping up on you. Last 2, straight lift up, straight to mat, and 1 more time. Just getting your spine to be stabilized, core is active. And then if you were going to articulate your bridge, inhale, head away from tailbone, exhale, curl. It's a coccyx curl, tailbone is coccyx. Curl the coccyx away from you, elongate low back, peel your pelvis up, feel hips open in front, hip flexors are on a stretch right now. Peel up vertebra by vertebra. If you're allowed to do articulation, your spine isn't fused. Roll up. Stop at the middle part of the back. Feel how collarbones are wide, chest is open, your glutes are active, the hips feel like they're getting a stretch, pulling apart right in the front of the hip socket. Inhale, now soften your breastbone, your sternum mounts into your chest as you exhale. Lower down, inhale, exhale. Getting all the air out of your lungs. And then gently just nod, head, neck, shoulders. Take a deep inhale. Breathe into the mid-back, thoracic spine between those 2 shoulder blades. And we're just going to just gently rock and roll up. And there you have it. So you did your beginning of hundreds, learning how to get those ribs to pull together. And then without flaring the ribs, without busting out the center of the spine, making those ribs pop forward, we got them to funnel down. We got the collarbones to open wide across chest. And then when you're breathing, you're controlled, and those arms just pump from back of shoulder blades. They're connecting into those lat muscles deeper down in those back. So basically, just wanted to introduce that to you with the breath, because the breath in Pilates is fundamental. I'm getting a cramp in my toe, or my foot. I had to change positions. So the breath in Pilates is fundamental. It's instrumental to everything that we do. So if you ever take a class and they're not using the breath, you're truly not really doing Pilates. So you don't want to waste your time unless someone's taking all of the aspects of Pilates and bringing it together into one segment. It has to be unified. It has to come together as a whole, and each part makes up that whole. And also in yoga, the breathing has different reasons, different concepts, and there's many different ways to breathe. So you don't want to compare the two because they're very different and they're doing different things. like a skull crushing fire breath, would be like the Diaphragmatic breathing, and it has a different focus. And it's gonna increase like the fire in your body, and it's gonna like increase the heat. So it's working with subtle energies. So it's so different than what we're doing in Pilates with the deep diaphragmatic breathing. And then that one's using like a strong percussive course. When you exhale and then you're pulling your abdominal wall in, you're breathing faster and you're really generating heat. So just keep in mind, if you practice one discipline and go into another, it doesn't mean that the breathing you do in one discipline translates into the other. So just be open-minded about what you're doing and what your teachers are doing, because there's always reasons behind everything. And that's all I wanted to say today, just a little bit about the breath and how it's instrumental, and how if you breathe deeply, it's going to benefit everyone, whether you're in yoga or Pilates, because you get the oxygenation into the lower lobes of the lungs, and it helps you from tensing up your shoulders, your neck, and all the accessory breathing muscles. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Peace. Bye.